evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater. It spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage on the internet. There you'll find the exact frequencies we transmit on, and also some background information on the club. Also on the link you'll find there'll be a link for streaming YouTube on the front page of our paperwork. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association's WW7STR's repeater 14708 for voice transmissions during the nets. So with that, I'll pause in case anybody has an emergency traffic or needs to make a contact before a net gets fully underway. This is Dave, KD7CYM.
N7KC.
Hearing none, we'll get the net underway. We also have checked in via video Ron, KD7QKU, Lee, N7KC, Jim, N7QO, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM, and Richard, K7ITX. Is there anybody else that want to check in? Hearing none, we'll get the net rolling. Let's start off with Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Well, good evening, everybody. This is Ron, KD7QKU. Well, I guess the most exciting thing has been going on over here is we got our motorhome ready, to put up for sale. I was taking it over to Paulsboro RV and putting it on consignment. The motorhome now is 18 years old. It's getting pretty old. They don't like to take them that are more than 15 years old. The banks don't like to finance them, so that's kind of a problem. But they said no problem, but it is kind of a problem. So anyway, we cleaned it all up, washed it off. Looks nice. It's in really good shape. We've taken very good care of it, since it was new in 2006. And I went out this morning, and I went out the other day, and the starting battery was dead. So I had to call AAA and have them come out and put a starting battery in it. And there's two house batteries, they call it. I think they're about the same age. Oh my gollies, I don't want to replace them. But anyway, so this morning I go out to start it, and it starts right up, and I have the front wheels up on locks to level it, so if we wanted to run the refrigerator in it, it would be okay. And I stuck it in reverse to back down off the blocks, and it didn't want to move. The brakes were frozen, kind of. So I jockeyed it back and forth and put the park brake on and off and pressed on the pedal, and I got it to go back, and then I got it to go forward. But I could hear the front tires, I think, sliding in the gravel. So I went back and forth a dozen times. I couldn't hear them, I thought. So then I got it out on the street, on the asphalt, and I drove it around the block, which is a mile. And everything seemed fine. It stops fine, run fine. Good. So I came and told Joanne, lock the gate. We're ready to go. So we headed to Paulsville and RV and got over there, and I thought I could smell a little bit of hot brakes. So when I got out, I went back and started feeling the rear drums. I'd had trouble with the rear drums being hot before. I had to have it fixed once upon a time. And so the guy came out and he said, his name was Tim, he said, I think I smell brakes. And I said, could be. And so he's feeling the front wheels. He said, oh yeah, they're pretty warm. So he said, pull it on over by the service bay there and we'll have the service manager come out and look. He said, we can't take it on consignment or do anything with it until, you know, the brakes are good. So he said, he'll have to have the brakes fixed. Or, you know, we'll have to check them and see what's going on. So anyway, so and then he came in and talked to us and everything, and he said, oh yeah, I checked the tires too. The tires are 2012s. That makes them 12 years old. And he said, we're not supposed to sell anything that has tires that are more than 7 years old. So I may have to. I looked at him and said, you got to be kidding. I said, the tires are in great shape. No, he said, they are in great shape. He said, maybe we can work around that. I don't know. But anyway, if you have to put new tires on it just to sell it, pretty soon I'm going to be paying them just to take it. So I was talking to Mike. It's got a Ford 450 chassis under it. Mike has a 350 truck, and Mike just had his front brakes rebuilt, and he said he spent over $2,500 on the front brakes. So if I had to do all four, I'm looking at $3,000 or $4,000, I suppose. I don't know. That's why I wanted to get rid of it. I didn't want to do all that stuff to it. So I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, and you just can't get away from it, you know, I don't think so. Anyway, so that's, I'm crying crocodile tears tonight. So back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU. Thanks for that. Let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles.
Well, we'll see how things are working tonight. Okay, good show. N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Well, hello, Richard and Ron and Dave. I don't know if anybody else is lurking around out there or not. I don't think so. Ron, that's quite a story. And yes, and that, oh my. Well, I have an interesting little battery story today. I have a couple of clocks here. I've got a regulator that was a hand-me-down when Paula's dad died, and she's very fond of the clock. And I have a Howard Miller, very, very nice. These are both pendulum clocks and so forth. And I don't have a dip tank, and I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner big enough to put them in or anything. And they'll run about a day, and then they stop running. And I was talking to one of our local hams here over in north of Sequim, and he likes to work on clocks. So I said, well, would you like to take these two on, you know? He says, sure. He says, you buy the parts, I'll be glad to do it. So I loaded them in the Volkswagen today, and I went over to Charlie's place, and everything was fine. Took him out. We talked. He's got a beautiful ham station, and we looked at all of his stuff. He's got 35 clocks on the wall. That was kind of fun. So I get in the car, and I decided I'm going to go into Sequim. He's not very far from Sequim. And the car started up fine. I went to Dairy Queen in Sequim and got myself a vanilla malt, went back out, put the key in and turned it, and went click. The battery was so dead, the clock even died. There would just be a blinking and a click, and the lights would blink on the dash. So I have paid into AAA for the last 10 years and never got a darn thing for it. So I whipped out my card and called them, and sure enough, they came and jumped me. Started right up, no problem. So I told the guy, I says, well, I'm going to go up to Costco and buy a battery. But I was thinking Costco, they put tires on. I thought they put batteries in, too. Listen, I'm out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'll finish this the next time around. With so few of us, it's going to be pretty quick. Nobody will forget. Okay, it's 7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Back to you, Dave.
Now it's time to insert the commercial. We'll have to wait till the commercial block is over till we find out what happens. Well, let's go to Richard, K7ITX.
I'm all tangled up here. Sorry about that, you guys. So, those are two great stories so far. I'll start with Lee only because I don't want to forget, because I know a lot about what Ron's talking. So, as far as Lee is concerned, yeah, no, I needed a new battery for my F-150 Ford pickup. And I just knew how expensive they were at any regular auto parts joint, so I did. I went to Costco. And, then I found out, they don't install them, but they have really good prices. So, they had my battery. I thought, well, gosh, it's right there. It's right where you can see it. It's not buried anywhere. And so I bought it. But then I got it home. It's a heavy sucker, but not only is it a heavy sucker, I need a step ladder to get up to the engine bay and try, so there's no way I was going to climb up the step ladder holding the battery, so I had to kind of, tip it or lean it cockeyed, hoping it wouldn't fall, and it didn't, and I made it. But then again, you're using both hands, and not one, to lift it into position, and you're balancing on a ladder at the same time. I swore to God I would never do that again and for the rest of my life. And so when Debbie needed a new battery, I took Ron's advice and signed up for the AAA that morning, and then ordered a battery for a dead battery. This all in one day. You can become a member and get a battery service all in one day. So that's what we did. So yeah, Lee, that's too bad. When you had them there while the getting was good, it's too bad you didn't take advantage. Not that he would have had your battery exactly, but you never know, or he could have got it pretty quick, or you would have drove out to your house. There you go. So anyway, live and learn, I guess. And then Ron, I think you're just gonna, I don't know, I think it's this consignment thing that you're, hell-bent on, so to speak. Especially when it's that old. I think you just need to do what I did, and, and I wouldn't even suggest maybe you want to go out to Kent RV and just, tell them to make you an offer. And when they make you an offer, take it. Just that quick, But, but you've done everything to, keep it up. That's what they like, these places, when they see that's been really good care. If all they have to do is do a brake tune-up and buy new tires, that's nothing to them. That's just, a couple hours work and maybe, I don't know, for them, maybe $500 for tires. They buy everything at wholesale, and they got the, in fact, at Kent RV, it's a family operation, so you just can't lose. You might lose in losing some money, but you're not going to be buying new tires, you're not going to be buying new brakes. You're not going to be driving to wherever you drove, and you'll just get it out of your hair and never think about it again. And you just get one check, and it might not be as big as you expected, but, well, you're finding out. I might as well give a quick little volcano report. And I'm surprised that I even have a report, because this volcanic or fissure eruption in Iceland right now that started on Saturday is still going strong. I mean, it's pretty amazing in that the other eruptions, these fissure eruptions they've had, the three others just have lasted a day or two. But the one they're having right now is still going strong, and it doesn't look like it's dying out anytime soon. Well, one reason why I say that is because the GPS is showing that the ground all around the area is beginning to rise again. And so the other eruptions, when they have the lava come out, the land dropped in the Blue Lagoon and the power plant area. The land dropped. Well, now it's rising, but it's still erupting like crazy. So it appears that the new eruption shows evidence of a deeper magma source, and I find that interesting, but yet kind of scary. However, now that the Icelanders know how to handle it. They've done really well with the fortifications that they have up right now. The pipeline that got destroyed 2 eruptions ago, or the last eruption, I don't quite remember, I guess the 3rd eruption, they buried that, and they're convinced that if the lava goes over where it's buried, it's just fine. They've done a lot of they spent a lot of time on it and to protect the area. So, and they've got these fortifications that are working. I'm convinced that even if they have a crevice open up and erupt lava on the wrong side of their fortifications, that they'll know what to do. They'll just get right at it, and during the eruption, as the lava is flowing, they'll build fortifications and direct it away. So little Grindavik, it faces, a pretty scary future. But I'm convinced that they're going to save the town just with their elbow grease and their trucks and front end loaders. I think, and they're not going to be a tourist wonderment like maybe Yellowstone down the road. So that's pretty exciting. Now, one thing that Dave brought up, we were asking about, the pollution or the gas from the volcanic eruption, and I'm starting to hear that it is starting to become a big deal. Now, whether I have my chemicals right, but I think we're talking about sulfur gas and hydrochloric gas, but I think and probably carbon dioxide. It's really pumping quite a bit into the atmosphere, and it could mean colder times, but I'm sure there's probably a good argument that maybe it's just going to add to global warming. I don't know, but this is all very interesting to me, and I follow little bits and pieces of it every day. It's it's kind of fun to wake up in the morning and turn on YouTube. Is the volcano still erupting? And I'm always, or even after tonight, I'm going to watch, and it's just crazy, you know. It's especially this is, you know, where I've got relatives and where my mother-in-law grew up as a little kid, and you know, they never had to worry about it in this part of Iceland, at least in anyone's current lifetime. So anyway, that's a pretty long report. I took advantage of the small group, but anyway, it's nice to see everybody, and it's great to see Lee got his phone figured out. You know, I had the same problem with my laptop. I didn't change anything, but it went into this duplicating mode, and anytime I transmitted, it would repeat everything I said. And I finally found something, you know, in the settings of EchoLink that, I don't know, it's just crazy, but it's like you found it and you fixed it, and now everything's back to normal. So K7ATS back to net control.
ATX, thanks for that. And it's time for another ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to Jim, N7QO in Covington.
N7QO. Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Well, wow, those are some interesting stories. I don't have anything like that. Ron, yeah. Motorhome is kind of ready to go. Wow, has been giving you some fits. I kind of think maybe like Dick was saying, it might be best just to see if you can have someone make you an offer. I don't know, you don't know how much you're going to have to spend on the brakes and tires if they're going to do that. But listening, it might not even sound like they would make you an offer, maybe, if they don't think that someone would finance it since it's more than 15 years old. They might be happy to take it on consignment after you put a bunch of money into it, but I'd hate to have you put a bunch of money into it and then it doesn't sell. You just have to come way down with the price if that happens, I guess. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know for sure what to tell you on that. Good luck. Keep us all advised of how the story progresses, if you would, please. I'm sure all of us would appreciate that. Let's see, Lee, you said a ham north of Squim. Does he live on a boat? Anyway, you drove all the way to Squim, and then the battery decides it won't start. Oh, man. Something similar to that happened to me maybe about 3 times over the decades, and each time what it turned out in my case was corrosion in the battery terminals. And so what I got to doing is carrying a battery wire brush with me, and that way if it happens I can just remove the terminal and wire brush the inside of the terminal and the battery posts and put it back together, and and that solved my problems. But if the battery's too old, well, it's just too old. Anyway, at least AAA came through for you there. That's good. Oh, and good job on getting the cell phone squared away with Echolink. I don't know, I've encountered so many things that cause me to scratch my head. Especially when it's been working. It's like, okay, what happened? But anyway, good job on getting that fixed. Good to hear from you there. And Dick, let me reset. Yeah, carrying a battery up the ladder. At least the vehicles I've got, they're low enough where I don't need a ladder. But that could be a problem, especially as we get a little bit older. Yeah, I could see that would be something I probably would not ever want to do again either. But glad you got it done. And deeper magma. Oh man, that sounds potentially frightening. I would hate to see that thing blow up any worse than it already has. That's putting a lot of people out there in jeopardy, and certainly not making for a good life out there. Don't know how long it's going to be before it calms down, but thanks for the update on Iceland. Keep the updates coming if you would, please. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
QO, this is Dave, KD7CYM in Lake City. Well, I've got 49 degrees and overcast here. This was a Costco day for me today, and I went by the prepared meal section, and I got suckered into getting one of their stuffed green pepper meals. And boy, they were pretty good. So anyway, I had that today. And I was going to say for Ron, I couldn't understand why there were so many used motorhomes by the homeless out there. And so I believe people probably paid them to take the damn things away. And so that's why the homeless got free homes with motorhomes, because people couldn't sell the older motorhomes. So they kind of went that way. Well, the other solution would be get the tires and brakes fixed and hit the road for another 2 years and get your money's worth out of the motorhome. Have some fun with it. Hit the road. And again, with Lee, with the battery going down, I had a car that many years ago, the battery went down, then I replaced the battery and it went down, and then found out it was the alternator had gone bad. Well, that lasted for about 6 months, and then the battery went dead again, and it was another alternator I had to have replaced. And that lasted again for about 6 months. Another alternator, but the battery I never had to replace again. But anyway, finally it chugged on. The diodes somehow in the alternator gave up the ghost. Oh, my, and Richard. Well, maybe they'll have a mountain that'll come out of that with a big magma behind it. You'll have a mountain there. Be a good place to put a relay station for ham radio. Be able to cover the whole island if it goes up high enough. Oh my gosh. So that's about it. This is Dave, KD7CYM in Lake City. So I'm going to move it back up to Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, this is KD7QKU again. Well, Lee, I'm anxious to hear the rest of your story. I hope you put an instrument on it and checked to make sure it was charging. so we'll find out. I have a clock here too that needs to be repaired. I sure wish I could find somebody like that. It's I think it's a Howard, whatever yours is, and it's a nice clock. We paid it quite a bit for it many years ago. But the mainspring broke in it. It was keeping time just fine until I wound it, and I wound it snug, and then the mainspring went boom. And I guess it had been wound snug too many times, and something broke. So anyway, they wanted like $400 to fix it, and I didn't quite think I wanted to spend $400 to have it fixed. So it's just this pretty setting there with both hands at 12 o'clock. And I think Richard's right. I think maybe I should have just sold it to them, let them fix it. But they never did. They said they could do that. They would buy it from me, but I felt like it would be such a small amount. But when I add up the repairs and subtract it from what I think I'll get, it's going to be a small amount. So either way, it's not looking good. So I guess that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Lee. I want to hear the rest of his story. So KD7QKU, back to net.
Thanks for that, Ron. And time for an ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. On the 08 machine, I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. Well, now that the commercials are over, we'll get back to Lee for the rest of the program.
Okay, Lee again, N7KC in Port Angeles. Okay, well, Richard, the first thing I did was to jump out and check the battery cables, make sure that they were tight and no corrosion, and they were. They were nice shape. The real truth is that the battery must have been at least 12 years old, and you can reasonably expect good service for maybe 5 or 6 out of a lead-acid battery. So it was way down the pike. It just gets by use, but the battery still deteriorates. So anyway, all right, so the guy jumps me, and the gadget that he uses, it looks like a little gas welding thing, with leads on it. It had a meter on it, and it was showing 13.6 volts. And I had not watched it when the car started, but he says, yeah, it's charging okay. So it would act exactly like a battery would. If the cables were bad, but they weren't. So anyway, I'm only 3 or 4 blocks from Costco. So I told the guy I was just going to go up to Costco and get a battery. He never said that he could sell me a battery. I suppose he could have, He came in a flatbed truck where he could have hauled the car up on it. So anyway, I go up to Costco. Well, I can't shut it off. So I have to leave the key in the ignition. I can't lock the car. So I let it run. Just let it run. And I went into the battery place real quick and asked them if they've changed batteries. And they said no. So I said, well, okay, well, I want to buy one then. And so I did that. We figured out what was the right one and all that. And then I took it out, and the car's still running okay. Nobody stole it. And I was able to horse it into the trunk, of the Beetle just fine, without wrecking anything on me, and so forth. So I just came home. I never let it stall or anything like that. Well, here's the deal. If I'm leaving Squim, there's a traffic circle, and there is a fire truck, lights and sirens going strong, right? Going right up there about 1 block ahead of me. And they went out and turned west on 101, and they're hightailing down the road. And I'm just going the speed limit there. And by and by, I get to I can see the State Patrol office on 101. Well, I'm out of time. Just a minute. I'm trying to reset it here. I don't know if I got it reset or not. Maybe. Okay, so N7KC again, Lee here in Port Angeles. Okay, as I get up there, holy smokes, an eastbound car on 101. It's a divided highway there, and the eastbound lanes are higher than the westbound lanes. Some car eastbound came off the road down across the median, spewing parts. There are parts of the car every place. Went across 2 westbound lanes and into a ditch. And the fire truck, people were there, and an ambulance had showed up with no lights. And they're standing around looking at that car. And it didn't resemble a car. It was like a block, compressed block of metal kind of down there. And there were just parts just every place. So it really took a thrashing going down there, and I thought all the signs pointed to probably a fatality or more, who knows. But anyway, it happened just minutes before I went up there. You know, the fire truck was out of sight, but then it wasn't long till I caught up to it, so it wasn't very far. And getting the battery, back to the battery, getting it in. I have a Hoyer lift. So when it comes time to move batteries, like in my truck, they're up really high too, up in the front. There's a pair of them. And so I just use the Hoyer lift to go up there, and I just, nothing to it, you know. I don't have to do anything. And I'll exercise the same option here when I put this one in the Volkswagen. So it'll go okay, I think. So, and I had to go to the eye doctor this morning. Sometime last week, I popped a blood vessel in my right eye, and it for several days has been totally red. I'd say you know, every now and then you can get kind of a red eye and so forth. Oh, you can't hear me now? No? Okay, I'll quit. Oh, you got me now. Anyway, so I had to go to the eye doctor this morning to make sure I was okay. So I got scanned. And everything. I'm fine. So anyway, back to you, Dave. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But that was an awful accident. Or incident. I think I would call it an incident. This is N7KC Lee in Port Angeles. Go ahead, Dave.
AC, let's go to Kent to Richard. K7ITX.
All right, well, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a great story, actually, Lee. Thanks for wrapping that up. And well, you know, I can kind of follow you a little bit. I'll go in your reverse order with my stories. You ended up with medical. I'll start with medical. I get my stitches out tomorrow. So you see stitches, you know, in my palm, or just below my palm for carpal tunnel in my left hand, carpal tunnel release, and then stitches just below my pinky finger for pinky finger trigger pinky finger release. And very successful. I mean, I am just, yoo-hoo! I've got carpal tunnel out of my life now. I have my right hand done, my left hand done, pinky finger doesn't lock up. That was really a nightmare. Now, I may have to go back to my right hand for if my pinky finger ever locks up. It used to, it's not doing it now, and maybe it never will again. What a great surgeon. What a, you know, my wife used him, and he's just perfect. It's just clean and slick as a whistle. So I'm happy with that. So that was my medical. And then as far as road issues go, I didn't really deal with them because I just stayed home and took naps all day yesterday. But in and out of my naps, I heard about a horrible wreck by our house on Highway 18. I shouldn't say by our house. 8 miles from our house on Highway 18, right over the Green River in Auburn. A tractor trailer full of water bottles jackknifed and exploded and took out guardrails and essentially had eastbound 18 closed in Auburn at Green River for just about 18, 20 hours. So that was a big deal. So that's on the south side of where I live, and then very close, maybe within about a mile and a half, 2 miles, horrible, what do they call it? Well, there are a lot of victims. They called it a mass casualty event. 4 fatalities and 3 critical injuries. And a pretty weird intersection, a road that I use frequently because it gets you from my place on East Hill Kent to Fairwood very quickly. And I know the intersection very well, and yeah, cars go really fast. But if you're like me and you stay in the right-hand lane, you don't even have to worry too much. You just stay behind the other slow person, and you're generally going to be safe. You just have to look for the other people and, stop, try to get out of their way if they're going too fast. Because it's the speed limit, I think, is 40, and it seems like people do 80. So I'm not surprised they had a horrible wreck there. Hopefully there's some weird things about that intersection. It's kind of hard to describe. But, yeah, darn it anyway. Yesterday was a day for bad wrecks. Tacoma on I-5, and then I heard about another one somewhere else. No, it was not good yesterday. Well, so anyway, that's all I have. Oh, no, it isn't. Wait a second. Stand by. On at Bramp, live and direct. The current situation, as you can see, it doesn't look like it's really slowing down at the moment. It's just pretty incredible. We'll just be happy that Mount Rainier stays nice and quiet during our lifetimes. K7ITX, back to net control.
K7ITX, Richard. Boy, very nice pictures. The nice thing is they didn't have to put up spotlights or anything to see what was going on. Nature provided that. Very interesting. Let's go to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Let's see. Well, Lee, 12-year-old battery. Yeah. Sorry about that. You got to keep an eye on those things. I'm kind of guilty of that too. What I do, I don't keep like a battery tender on mine, but I charge all of our lead-acid batteries pretty much every weekend, and just to try to prolong the life. But I don't know how long is too long. I don't know. It's kind of a guessing game. Oh well. It's reassuring. If it were that old for me, I wouldn't even question it. Yeah, that's okay. Problem solved. And let's see. Oh, blood vessel in the eye. Oh, man. I'm glad that sounds like that's nothing serious, but it could be pretty distressing. So glad that has a good outcome, at least for now. Keep an eye on it for another week or so. And that car that turned into a puddle of junk. Yeah, maybe the fire department and all those people would call it an incident, but the guy who owned the car might call it a disaster. I don't know. Was he thrown out of the car or something? That to have survived that, it sounds like it was quite a miracle. And Dick, stitches coming out. That's good. It sounds like your hand is doing well. You did not mention anything about your mouth, though. Is that for sure? Did he get the job done on that? And do you think you're going to need to go back to the dentist again on that? And accident on Highway 18. Yeah. Man, I heard something that Highway 18 was blocked. Didn't know what happened there, but thanks to you now, I do know what happened. Fortunately, I wasn't going by that way. And that other intersection you're talking about, I'm not sure where that is. But it has been a bad week for accidents. And for that matter, aviation, too. There's just been, I don't know, something in the karma out there, all kinds of things going on. Oh, that reminds me, we were talking on the last net, someone was saying about a front line on public broadcast service, had some sort of special about Boeing. That is available on YouTube if anyone is interested in watching that. I watched that. That's interesting. I hope Boeing does well. I don't know. Everyone's been having problems lately. Things are just crazy. Don't know what else to say about that. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
N7QO, thanks for that. This is Dave, KD7CYM. In Lake City, oh my gosh. Automobile accidents. I think some of the problems come when you get this beautiful 2 or 3 days of sunshine and warm weather. People seem to have a lead foot pedal going in their cars, and they just go along with the windows down, and they don't realize how fast they're really going, I think, and all of a sudden it does create a lot of problems. And for Lee with the clocks, I've had the same problem with mine, that it every once in a while stop, and I just get out a can of LPS with a long straw that comes in the can and spray the heck out of the inside of the cabinet, and so all the gears and everything gets drippy wet. Then put a paper towel down at the bottom of the pin where the pendulum is, and let it set for about 2 or 3 days. Then throw the paper towel away, and the clock seems to come back to life. Anyway, that's the cheap and easy way to lubricate them. That's been my way of doing it. And oh my gosh, that Iceland mess is just unbelievable. I feel sorry for the people that live there. And you can't sell the property, I imagine, if you're sitting on top of a volcano. Nobody wants to buy that. And you said the government's coming in with some kind of aid for the people who live in those areas, we hope. But oh my gosh, terrible things happen. Well, this is Dave, KD7CYM, Lake City. So I'm going to go back up to Ron, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU here again. Well, Richard, I'm glad your hand's doing fine. And Lee, it sounds like you're going to make out with the battery okay. my fingers, you know, I let my carpal tunnel go so long. My fingers are still kind of numb, tingling. They're, you know, better than they were, but they're not perfect, and I don't think they ever will be. So I let mine go way too long. It was too bad. The first thing the doctor said when he saw me is, "Why did you wait so long before you came in?" So let's see. I don't have a whole lot more. Like I say, I'm kind of sad over the motorhome. You know, it still seems like it's almost new to us. You know, I mean, that's the sad part. But when you take it over on the lot and you look at all the new ones, and then you look at yours, it begins to look old. So it's kind of a sad story. Still got a lot of use in it. I mean, a lot of, you know, kind of, but then it's, that's why we sold the motorhome we had previous to this one. It was to this point, and we wanted to travel, and I didn't want to have to nickel and dime it while we were traveling, so we spent a whole bunch of money and got a newer one, and then it served us well for 18 years, I guess. We've taken some pretty nice trips with it, but I guess those are all gone now. So I don't know. It's I find it really it's just depressing in two ways. We've had a camper motorhome ever since we've been married, and that's to get rid of it and kind of having that come to an end is depressing. And then the fact that we're not going to end up with very much money out of it when it still looks nice and clean is depressing. So it's depressing all the way around. But you know, really deteriorated sitting out there. The 2 years it sat out there, it's pretty amazing. I had to work pretty hard to get it cleaned up. Just, you know, around the windows where the rubbers are and everything, the little green mold type stuff had accumulated there, and I had to scrape all that off. I spent the whole day pressing on it before I got it to where it was, I thought, acceptable. So I don't want to do that anymore. You know, we kept it under a roof for so many years, and it stayed nice, and that's why it's as nice as it is now. It was because of the roof. The weather's pretty hard on it. Okay, that's about it. We're running out of time, I think, so let somebody else. Yeah, KD7QKU.
Thanks for that. And this is time for another ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Port Angeles to Lee in 7KC.
Okay, very good. M7KC here, Port Angeles. Well, okay. Well, good stories all around. Yeah, that's a sad thing on a motorhome, Ron. I feel for you there. Now, what I do here is I never set the emergency brakes over the winter on the vehicles. You know, I just don't do that. And leave them in gear or park. And the truck is on a side slope, so I leave it in park, but I also have chocks for the wheels, so it can't roll off. And I had an emergency brake freeze once on the truck, and I had devil of a time getting that thing freed up, you know. I finally did, you know. I backed up and all that sort of stuff, and I was able to free it up okay. But from that point on, I've done that. Richard, you know, Echolink on my phone. Now, that was a perplexing problem. I made no changes to the app, okay? I mean, I don't go in there and screw around with the setup at all. It was working fine, and then it wasn't. And you know how they replace the apps automatically on your phone as they up them? I mean, they're all the time updating apps on my phone. They don't ask me permission to do it. I don't know when they do it. So all I can think is, and I've not kept track of the versions or anything like that, but I just bet you that there was an update that came in and added a setting or something in there because whatever it was wanted me to have some kind of relays in between the phone and the router, and every time I tried to connect to Echolink, it would say no relays online or some such like that. Oh, what the heck is that? So when I went into the setup and I found a thing that says relays or direct, what I did was just tap the direct button, and that's all it took, you know, and it was working fine. So, I don't know. The other thing that was weird was the way it was, I was able to actually connect with a number of Echolink stations, connect just fine, right? I don't know. Anyway, well, okay, I'm done. N7KC Lee in Port Angeles. It was fun to hear you, Jim, over in Covington. Can't see you, but I can hear you, and that's fun. So thanks, everybody, for good chat. We'll see you in a little bit. N7KC. Back to you, Dave.
KC, well, let's go to Richard, K7ITX in Kent.
Yeah, Lee, that's pretty much kind of what happened to me when I remember signing into the net from out of town, and it would just repeat my call sign from Echolink over and over. It just wouldn't stop until I just signed off, and I didn't change anything, but I'm sure it's exactly something like what you described, Lee, because Microsoft, I never give them permission to install an update to my operating system, and they do it all the time. I'm sure just about once a week, and they just toggle something, and next thing you know, there's probably other things too that you don't even know about that aren't what you like anymore until you get there and you go, how'd this happen? So Jim, mouth is feeling great. I've been kind of worried about it because, it injured my tongue, where that piece of sharp bone was sticking out for so long. It's just, way back there by your molars. It scratched the heck out of my tongue, and it finally starting to feel okay. I mean, it's not totally back in business. I think the oral surgeon did a nice job sculpting the bone and getting it back and stitching the opening together of the gums. I think that's all. There's no pain whatsoever. It's the tongue that is still kind of somewhat marginal, but healing quickly. I just have to be careful about not scraping my tongue against my teeth. Even right now as I'm talking, I can get out of control and hurt my tongue just talking. And the other thing so where this big wreck was between Kent and Renton, if you're probably familiar with Southeast 132nd Avenue that runs basically from Highway 18, eventually becomes Southeast 140th, where it then dies into Petrovisky and down all the way to the Maple Valley Highway. So it's that intersection before you get to Petrovisky. It's the intersection after you could have turned left to go to Kent Ridge High School. It's actually 192nd, the last street, the last light, that is, before you get to Petrovisky, about a mile and a half before Petrovisky on 140th, or kind of like 132nd. And it's 192nd. If you were to turn right, heading north on 140th, you would head east on 192nd into Lake Youngs. If you turn left and went west, you'd eventually get to the Benson. So That's pretty weird. That's a weird intersection there. It switches from 2 lanes to 1 lane real quick in about 50 yards, and I'm gonna guess that's what caused the wreck, because I've seen a lot of weird stuff happen there, and when I approach that intersection where it goes from 2 to 1 real quick after the light, I backed down. I let other people have at it, and I just let them have, I just stand back. So anyway, that's my story. I'll stick to it. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to say 73 to everybody, and yeah, great stories with just amongst us. K7ITX, back to net control.
Thanks for that. And this is Dave, KD7ZYM, on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. It's time to close the net. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association, letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 for our voice transmissions for our nets held on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, KD7ZYM, terminating the net at 9:01. Good evening, all.
KC disconnected.